Hey y'all, it's Drew here again. Kind of late tonight, different room obviously. Tonight I want to talk about accountability. Not a big thing that anybody thinks about sometimes, but who are you accountable to? You know, what are the reasons that you act the way you do? What are the reasons you do good things, bad things, anything in general? Sometimes people, especially me, I'm white, kind of have a hard time understanding the whole racial issue with all these cops, but it's not about really a racial issue anymore. We kind of portray it that way sometimes. There are people, but it's really about accountability. I grew up in the country. I grew up kind of a rural area. We had sheriffs. We had the county sheriff. Now the thing there is, though, with the county sheriff, they're accountable to their people. They're accountable to the whole county and the whole county of people, because we're the ones that elect them in. If somebody starts acting crazy because they think they have too much power, or whatever the case may be, they start acting racial because that's who they really are, get them out of office. You hire somebody else in. That's just how it works. Meanwhile, in town, though, in a lot of these cities where you have cops and police stations, yes, they have their rules, they have their codes of conduct. But what happens when they get out of line? Something happens. They're put on leave, suspension. They're not fired. And even if they continually do this over and over again, they get their job back after a certain suspension. Sometimes they're actually fired and removed finally, but after how many lives that they've destroyed. That story about the cop in Florida who for over a year had been planting drugs on people's stuff. Literally, just because he didn't like them, or maybe he just wanted the paycheck. I'm not even sure. At that point, I don't care. Just planting drugs on somebody, ruining their whole life, their whole credit to make your paycheck better. That's terrible. And see, that's the problem with a lot of these cops, regardless of the rules. The ones that are elected by the people, they're accountable to those people. These cops, they're just hired for money. You could make a case that's an unaccountable man with a gun. I've heard it a few times already this week, this month, phrased that way, but the more I think about it, the more I think it holds true. Now, talk about an unaccountable man with a gun, but why don't you replace that last word? Replace it with a knife. How about unaccountable man with a car? You saw it in Charlottesville where somebody started hitting people. Even then, you had overseas, I believe it was in the UK, there was, the guy running around all of London just hitting people with his car before I think either he drove off a bridge or they just finally shot him on the end of a bridge. I don't remember the rest of the newscast. I thought it was sick showing it by then. How about an unaccountable man with power? Now, obviously, you can make the case for our president. You can make the case for almost anybody on Capitol Hill, though. They're all there by money. They're by election, too, some of them. But even then, how do we hear about them? Especially us here in the Midwest. Out here in the country, out here, heartland, farther west. How do we hear about them? Over the news, over advertising, over the radio. Places that are funded by money. And here's the thing about the president right now. Even Robert Mueller has made the case over and over again. It is not suggested to impeach a sitting president. Now remember, we've never actually had a president impeached. And I don't really want to go off on that whole tangent. But I think maybe it's time we change that little respectful rule. Because we're starting to get to the point that we have an unaccountable man running our country. I'll just go back to the Sharpie Gate incident. I mean, somebody who can flat out either not be paying attention to what's going on, a week later, and sit there and defend himself over his lie that he obviously had wrong, and surely at that point was told by multiple members of his staff, "You're saying this wrong, this is not happening," and then to continually defend it. He's never said he was wrong, and all he has done is press lawsuits and tried to fire people who said he was wrong, not even in his own cabinet. Literally people from weather services who were trying to help people to know what's going on so they can be safe. Things like this is what happens when we have an unaccountable man with power. Now, about changing that last word again, maybe for money. And even then, power today is very much registered by money. That's how we have the armies across the world that we do. That's how banks are able to transfer stuff across all seas. It's about money. That's how you pay for all this technology and all these setups. It's true. Money is what's ruling this world now. So what about an unaccountable man with money? I kind of said something earlier today on Facebook about Mark Zuckerberg being at the White House, and just one kind of a thought. Not, but then I thought about it more. Who is he accountable to? Facebook is its own entity. It's basically his invention. Really. I mean, but an innovator, really, in technology, especially in social media. And Facebook, as we all know, spans across the world now. I'm able to talk to people in the Philippines, in Australia. I'm able to talk to people in the Ukraine, and also, of course, my neighbor down the road, even though we're both sitting on the toilet. And then, that is incredible. But it gets a little scary when you think about that, because since it's his own entity, who is he accountable to for anything that goes on Facebook? And of course, we all know how much money he makes from Facebook, from advertisements and everything. And I'm not attacking Mark Zuckerberg. More like calling him out. With an engine that big, you have people making fake profiles and changing elections and changing results because of changing people's minds through that. I mean, that's what happened in 2016. That was the big case, was all these people who are making fake profiles, especially the Russians, and influencing our minds, Americans, to affect our election. It would be better if Sanders or Trump won. I don't know why the Sanders thing was in there, but what I'm saying is this all happened. A man with that much money and that much power, especially of influence, I hope Mark Zuckerberg knows what he's doing, is paying attention, and that he has a good head about his shoulders. He's smart. Not saying he's stupid. But there's a lot of smart people today who are blind. There's a lot of stupid people who are paying attention. The scariest thing is there's a lot of stupid people who are blind and don't care. That's the scariest part. Mark Zuckerberg is not one of them. He's not stupid, and I would hope that he is paying attention and that he's not letting all of his power and money go to his head. I would call us out as users, too, of Facebook, of Twitter, of YouTube, all of us. Because similar to elections, how it's the people that vote people in, with this social media stuff, why are they making money? Because we are using the product. It's just like how stuff in food is usually safe because people have to eat. The plumbing business, people have to crap. We're not letting social media go away. So as us users, we need to start paying attention to these things about who is running these companies of social media. Because a lot of them are basically unaccountable men with power. Now, here's how that usually happens in stuff that becomes totalitarian regimes, dictatorships. That man with power becomes a man with influence. Man with influence influences people to give him money. You got an unaccountable man with money. Then that unaccountable man with money and power and influence also grabs a whole government, a whole military, and then you have an unaccountable man with not just one gun, but many guns, and many blind, stupid people holding the trigger. That's just my thought tonight. Just my little nightmare that I had. If you like this video, like, subscribe, share, please discuss. That's all I have for tonight. Let's vote smartly.